me a moment while it's loading. Um, okay, it's still loading here.
It says it's live.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we are live. And now I press recording, so then I will edit later. Um, okay. Okay. Oh, okay, let's start, Reid.
Sure.
So, Reid, I want to start with sharing how I know you. I
Hmm.
heard about you I feel like long time ago, when I didn't know that sex educators exist. I didn't know there is such a scene. And then I heard, oh, there is this man who teaches about sex. So I was very curious.
Hmm.
And then later, I remember watching on TV, seeing the news that there is a first cuddle party, and you were co-founder of the cuddle party. So I think you're just such an interesting character, and I'm so happy, so honored to have you here and interview you. How would you introduce yourself?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I mean, for folks who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Reid Mihalko. My main website is readaboutsex.com. I'm a professional sex and relationship geek. I use he/him pronouns. I live just outside of Portland, Oregon. I used to live in Manhattan in New York City. I was there for 25 years, and then also in Oakland. But since 2004, when I threw the first cuddle party, that's kind of where I consider like my career started, because Cuddle Party turned into a really big news story, not just in the US, but internationally, because New Yorkers were paying money to cuddle, and all the human interest outlets just wanted to cover that because it was such a weird story. And my co founder, Marsha Baczynski, she came to the second Cuddle Party and was so inspired that we started working together, and I'm so glad I said yes to working with Marsha, because she coded the website back when you made websites by hand.
Oh,
And when the news story got out and people were like, "Is this real?" Like, we had a website, and we had the rules of Cuddle Party, and Cuddle Party .com is still the website, and people can go there now. I'm not affiliated with Cuddle Party anymore. I stepped away because I wanted to teach like more explicit sex and relationship workshops, and at least America, also other parts of the world, were so weirded out by the idea that adults could get together and cuddle and have it not turn into a sex party. Like,
oh,
no one, or at least the morning DJs, didn't believe it was possible. And so when I wanted to go teach communication workshops and sexuality and self confidence workshops, it made sense for me to leave Cuddle Party, because if you already had trouble believing, pajamas stay on the whole time, and I'm teaching a blowjob workshop, like, then you're going to be like, this is all a scam. And now I think it's 15 years later, 16 years later, Cuddle Party exists, and is that workshop is taught all over the world, and it's taught in different languages. And the
oh,
Cuddle Party organization is doing a wonderful job training facilitators and helping people have a conversation about consensual touch, and getting our touch needs met. And especially now, since it's been a pandemic for 15 months, there's a lot of people who probably could use a cuddle party.
yeah. That's I'm asking on my social media, like, how many hugs did you have today? And
Mm-hmm.
so many people say zero. And
Yeah.
this is so sad, and mostly because of COVID, but not only. Like that
Mm-hmm.
people, a lot of people are lonely. Like people getting dogs, cats to like touch someone.
Yeah.
So we are craving touch. And cuddle party is just, I remember attending that when I go to cuddle party and I'm being like touched everywhere for hours, I sleep 4 hours and it's enough because I
Mm.
feel like I'm so alive. How
Yeah.
this idea came to you?
Ooh, this is a fun story. So, brief family history. So my mom and dad loved each other very, very much, and but they didn't know how to communicate in their relationship. And I have three brothers, so the four of us, we grew up. My mom and dad, we catch them like making out in the kitchen, cuddling on the couch. We were a big touchy feely family, so like the biggest television in the house was in their bedroom, and so we would all puppy pile onto the bed and watch TV together as a family. And as we grew up, like my mom and dad used to be in the middle in the bed, like we'd all cuddle around them, but like their inabilities to talk about what they needed to talk about in their relationship, like over the years, like they got further and further out onto the edges of the bed. And then they weren't kissing in the kitchen anymore, and they weren't cuddling on the couch, and then they were fighting all the time. And so what I learned from that, because eventually my mom, and not being able to talk about her relationship, like she's turned to alcohol for self-medication. She became an alcoholic. And my father was that American John Wayne kind of man. And he thought, here's the woman that I love. She's not happy. So it must be because we don't have enough money. So he became a workaholic to try to fix it. And it ruined their relationship, even though it was so obvious how much they loved each other. And what I learned from that was like love is not enough to create a healthy relationship. And that would kind of set me off on my trajectory to try to figure out like what were my mom and dad missing, because I didn't want to destroy my relationships, because I didn't want to repeat the sins of my parents.
Yeah.
So that's who I was as I was trying to figure out who is Reid Mihalko and who am I? Like, I became sexually active in college, and I'm like, sex, I don't get it. I'm the child of an alcoholic, so I'm actually quite insecure. I'm just, at this point in my life, I'm very secure about how insecure I am. And I'm a nerd and a geek, so I like to think about like why things are this way. That's the preamble for where Cuddle Party comes from. Is I used to be a martial artist a long time ago. Then I was an actor for a little bit, and then I became a sex educator. But back in my martial art days, I also got interested in massage, because like I learned how to hurt people, and then I was like curious, like how do we put people back together? And so I was trading massages. I became friends with a lot of massage therapists, and we would trade massages so I could learn all their kung fu. Eventually, when my acting career became more successful, I wasn't available to trade massages with everybody. So my friends who were massage therapists were angry that I wasn't in town because I was off acting. So I started introducing them to each other. Then what we started doing was we started all of us getting together when I was in town, and we would all trade massages. We'd do 4 people on one person for 10 minutes, and then we'd rotate through, and we jokingly called that massage party.
Oh.
And then I had some friends who heard about massage party, and they wanted to come to it. And I'm like, okay, come. And they're like, it's too intimidating. It's all massage therapists. And they weren't massage therapists, but they were sweethearts. And I was like, no, like we've got massage therapists and nurses and doctors. Like we have people who have touch as part of their vocation. So it's not just like massage therapists. Come. But they wouldn't come. And every time I saw them, they would tease me about making them their own private cuddle party or massage party. And then one day I just like very snarkily said, well, listen, if you're too much of a wimp for you two to come to massage party, then get your blankets and your pajamas and your teddy bears, and I'll throw you a cuddle party, okay? And I was like, oh my goodness, we can do cuddle parties. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I know how to do this. And it made sense. And then I went home that night and wrote down, like, what would that be? And that created the rules of Cuddle Party and the welcome circle format. Like, how do you get a bunch of strangers to feel comfortable enough to exchange touch and negotiate consent? And that became the welcome circle for Cuddle Party. And then in 2004, I had the courage to throw the first one, and then Marcia came to the second one, and then by the end of that month, Cuddle Party had become a news story, and so it happened very fast.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is a beautiful story. I'm so happy to know it. Now I can tell people. I
Yeah.
know how Cuddle Party started. And
Mm-hmm.
you answered question. We had a question that what is Cuddle Party? And you already covered that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to switch gears and to go into COVID ending, people go back to dating.
Mm-hmm.
So just coming out there, right? It's a little scary. It's a little unusual. We have been sitting at homes for a while and now coming out. And so as I'm working mostly with women,
Mm-hmm.
there is this concern that, oh, like casual sex, like, okay, I'm hungry, let me have casual sex. But then there is, okay, like I have casual sex and then next day I feel kind of used, left out. So is it something you came across? Do you have your view at how to have like a casual, healthy dating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a really wonderful question, and it's a very poignant question these days. Similar to Cuddle Party, like for me and how I look at life, getting your needs met and being able to use your words, whether it's platonic, non-sexual touch, or super sexual, erotic touch, like those needs may be like, if you think of them as a scale, like it's just a continuum.
Mm-hmm.
But the skill sets to ask for for somebody to spoon you, and for it to not and to negotiate non-sexual touch, those are the
Mm-hmm.
same skill sets, and using your words and your self-awareness and being able to like speak up if you need to change positions or something, like those are all the same skill sets for asking for, I would love for you to go down on me, or I would like to be on top this time, like, and then like changing your mind and needing to change positions, or be like, you know what, I think I'm full, like I'd like to end the date now. Those are all the same skill sets. It's just that some people feel less vulnerable or insecure about certain things. And for me as a sex educator, and all the different types of communities I belong to in the sex ed world, something very funny that might make some people giggle is like I know like really serious BDSM kinky people who are like, I want to like use floggers and spank you and tie you up. And then I'm like, well, do you want to come to a cuddle party? And they're like, hell no, that shit scares me. So like, how we feel vulnerable and where we get wobbly, it really just kind of, I think, depends on the person and the situation. And if you haven't had any hugs for a year, that kind of, and there is a medical term called skin hunger, where you're kind of starved for touch and affection.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of skin hunger and being starved is the same thing if you haven't gotten laid in a year and you really want to get laid. And part of what's important in thinking about casual sex, is how do we take our casual sex more seriously, and then also how do we recognize that we may be so starved for getting our needs met that it's almost like we're going grocery shopping hungry, and we'll be tempted to
Oh.
buy things that look good but maybe aren't good for us.
Oh, I love this comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the part around like starting to think about, if you're going back into the world and peopling again, like what would be really nutritious casual sex for you. And for
Hmm.
some people that's going to mean like, oh, I need to be with somebody who doesn't know me, somebody I just met, because that's also more of a turn on, but feels safer because I don't want to run into this person at the grocery store. Whereas for somebody else, it's like, no, like if I'm gonna have casual sex, I should be having it with like a friend, somebody who knows me, because I need a little bit more emotional connection, and those things, like knowing those things about you. Some people don't know what they need yet because they've never really tried it before, and they're just starting to learn and explore themselves.
Yeah. And as well, I think that the intimacy that um like sex can be with intimacy or without intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think it's good to have sex without intimacy?
I think people giving themselves permission to have the sex that they want to have
Hmm.
is the good thing.
Okay.
So, because maybe you just want to try something really anonymous without any intimacy, just because you want to try it. And so you give yourself permission, you figure out a way to do that safely for yourself, and make it safe for other people. And then maybe you try it and you don't like it. But the trying it and the learning about it for yourself, that self-awareness, I would say, is probably a good thing.
Hmm.
Like sometimes, like what we want is we want consensual experiences, and we would love for them to be amazing, but
Yeah.
at least American culture puts so much stigma and shame on sex, and we're supposed to take it so seriously, and only when we're married, and only to make babies, and all these shoulds. It can be hard for people to kind of untangle it for themselves, so they know what they want to try and explore. And like I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and like sometimes a bunch of them get together and they don't even know each other, and then they have a drum circle, people whip out their guitars, and they're just making music, and they're having a jam session, and they're expressing themselves, and they're delighted, but they're not going to ever see these people again. And
Yeah.
so, was that intimate or not?
Mm.
Like, if
I see
somebody
where you're
goes to a
going.
salsa
Yeah.
class, remember when people used to salsa dance? Do you
Oh,
remember that before
yes.
the
Oh,
before the
yes.
pandemic? But like, so if you have a really magic dance with somebody, and then you're never going to see
Mm.
them again, like, was that
Hmm.
intimate? Like, so I think
Interesting. Yeah.
I I think people also have to kind of figure out like what intimacy even means to them.
Yeah. 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 Oh my God, I love that. And then the question for you as a sex educator,
Mm-hmm.
how to be the best lover? Like, what is the secret sauce for being the best lover? That if someone has sex with me, they say, oh my God, this was the best sex ever.
So the way that I would teach it for people listening, because there's no magic formula,
Mm.
but places to start are learn what you like what your body
Mm.
likes.
Mhm.
It always seems to help to start with yourself, but again, that can kick up a lot of shame. Like explore your body, see what you like. Go to a workshop, listen to talks like this. Like give yourself brain food, but also give yourself like body experiences. And if you have shame coming up, like if you're May, which just passed, is was National Masturbation Month. Like so, if you're
Mhm.
like trying to explore what makes your body feel good, and masturbation is bringing up a lot of shame, one of the things you can start practicing is like exercising your muscles to be with the shame and
Mm.
still find your pleasure. And maybe that means taking a workshop or going to a therapist, or like just trying to figure out how to stay present with yourself as you explore pleasure. Why that is important is you then start practicing how to use your words to describe to other people how to do things to you so that you can feel pleasure. Your ability to receive will help make you a better lover because other people aren't watching talks like this. They're not going to workshops. They haven't started working on their shame and exploring their bodies. So, one of the best ways to make somebody else feel like they're a rock star in bed is to help them rock your world. and I can definitely say this like as a man, as somebody
Mm,
raised as a masculine person, like most men, most men, air quotes,
yeah.
all we want to do, all we want to know is that we did a good job. Like it's like we're dogs, and we just want you to tell us, "Good dog, good dog."
And that's why we are faking orgasms to make you feel that you
Yeah,
did a
and
good
and
job.
that sucks because then when I find out that you're faking orgasms, then it. And I'm not saying this is good, but this is kind of culture fucking with us. I know this, and I teach people how to like step out of this box, but it's still there for me. The original programming of a real man makes gets the woman off,
Mhm.
right? A real man would make her come, Reid. So to take the time to untangle all that so that I can be present with you,
Mm,
so that I can ask you like in ways where you really get that I am listening, like I want to know, like how can I make you feel good? Like how can
mm.
I be a safe space so that you feel like you can be vulnerable and tell me like, "Well, I really need to use a vibrator during sex." And then for me, I'm like, professional tools create professional results. Like, let's get a vibrator because me helping you feel less ashamed, me helping you learn your own body, that makes me feel like a rock star. And the best way to start with that is for me to work through my shame and
Mhm.
insecurities. And just so people know, like I have a lot of sexual shame. It comes up all the time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't I
I
just
do
don't let it
too.
stop me.
Hmm.
I've trained myself to be like, "Oh, like, hey, by the way, like I'm feeling a lot of shame coming up right now about what we're doing, and like I just want to tell you so it's not rattling in my head." And
Yeah.
and like other people are like, "Well, oh my god, like Reid, like when do you teach the hand job thing? Like I want to know how to touch a penis." And I'm like, "This is this is the better way to get to that place."
Hmm.
Because we can show you, techniques, and I can tell you, use lube because that will always make genitals, almost always make genitals feel more sensation. I
Yeah.
can teach you the techniques and the pepper shaker and all the other things, but you know, trying to give somebody a hand job when you're like just struggling with all your shame and your guilt and you don't know your body, like it's going to be hard for you to enjoy giving the hand job.
Yeah.
And then if your lover like is worried that you're not having a good time, now we're both in
Mm.
our heads, and now like there's less pleasure. So there's a couple of different things. Like once you feel a little bit more confident about yourself, it's so much easier to teach you competency skills around
Yeah.
sexuality. And then once you start thinking about like, oh, I know how pelvic floors work, and I know where a clitoris is, and I know what a frenulum is on a
Mm.
penis, and how
Mhm.
scrotums work, and then like lube, 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 and then you're just like, ah, I I have my words. I can be present with you so you feel less ashamed, and then we can start listening to each other's bodies. Whereas it's really hard for me to listen to your body if all I'm
Mhm.
hearing in my head is all the shame.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And am I hearing you correctly that the, the best lover for you would be someone who's having pleasure, someone who's having just so much pleasure, and then you will enjoy that.
Yeah, it's almost like, so also understanding, like statistically speaking, most people, like most vulva owners, most, if you identify as a woman or
Mhm.
non-binary or whatever, but like people with clitorises,
Yeah.
most people with clitorises, when they have sex with a penis owner, like
Okay.
statistically speaking, there's usually not an orgasm for them involved. the national statistic used to be like for heterosexual sex, the national average was, I think it was 2.5 or 3 minutes from start to finish,
Okay.
which most people, vulva owners, need 15 or 20
Oh
minutes
my
just
God, like
just
30 minutes warm up.
just to start getting in the neighborhood
Yes.
of arousal. So if you start looking at like the kind of sex most people are having,
Mm,
they're just having bad sex. So how would you know what good sex is? And how would you know the experience of you both being in the sex long enough so you're both turned on, and then you're rocking somebody's world, and then you're turned on by their turn on, and then they're
mm,
like, we're back to the musicians. Like they're jamming. Like good sex should be like jazz, right? Where
mhm.
there's like you're playing with each other and you're playing off each other, but like this is a level of sex some people have never even experienced that. So how would
Yeah.
you know it's possible? And then there's also the added challenge of for those of us who are visual learners, a lot of us are looking for how sex is supposed to be so we can learn it. And because
Yeah.
of the internet, like now those visual learners, we turn to porn. And
Hmm.
trying to learn how to be a better lover from watching porn is like trying to learn how to be a better driver from watching the Fast and the Furious. But we were trained as kids, we were taught, do not drive like Vin Diesel or The Rock drives. So when you leave
Hmm.
the movie theater, you don't like race down the highway and try to jump over another car. Like you know the movie's fake. But
Yeah.
a lot of people weren't taught that porn is an entertainment medium. It's not an educational medium. It's heavily edited. You never see the negotiations, and you never see the porn star fall off the bed from the sex like we will do in real life.
Yeah.
So like you're watching like the Cirque du Soleil performers and Olympic athletes of sexuality doing cool things, but that's not how most people's bodies work.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. And then, how about communication? That talking, like you're mentioning, right? That it's like important to self pleasure and then like to know what I like and then to share it, to communicate. And for so many people, it's difficult. Like I remember just being quiet during sex because I didn't think it's okay to talk. Like I can do sounds like, ah, but I can't talk. So how like and I hear that for a lot of people, even they know like, oh, talk, it's still there is this psychological barrier to talk during sex. What's your,
Yeah.
do you
So
have tools?
there's a couple things. So some people aren't talking because when they're really aroused, they go into kind of a pre-verbal space. So like when
Mm.
you ask somebody a question like do you want me to do go harder or softer, and they're like like that's probably a good thing. It just means that like they're not going to be talking a lot when you're giving them a lot of pleasure. That's different than people who don't talk because they feel like they're going to ruin the moment or say the wrong thing, or that
Mhm.
I'm not supposed to be talking because that's embarrassing. Or the other version is I'm not talking because I can't find my words because maybe I
Mhm.
have a trauma history. A lot of people have gone through a lot of shitty things in their life.
Yeah.
They were never encouraged to use their words, or they had their words taken away from them. They were
Mhm.
silenced. So again, there are lots of different reasons why people don't speak up. The important pieces to work on in relationships, I think practicing that it's okay to have difficult conversations, because I grew up in a
Mm.
family where we didn't talk about the elephant in the room kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if people are interested, I have a whole article and a formula called the difficult conversation formula. And they can go to
Mhm.
my website, and you can go to readaboutsexcom /convo, CONVO, and that'll bring you to
Mhm.
the article. and you can download the handouts and the worksheets to
Oh,
practice
cool.
how you have difficult conversations.
Oh, that's great.
And then what that helps is it builds into your relationships. You can talk about the hard stuff,
Mm,
but you're also practicing like having conversations when you're nervous, which is again exercising your ability to find your words when you're
mm,
feeling anxious or awkward. Practicing talking in bed is really like practice, like
mhm.
encourage each other.
Yeah.
What I like to recommend in some of my workshops is that people do like research and development dates. Like if
Hmm.
you have somebody to explore with, like like make a sex date where only one of you is going to receive and the other one gets to explore the other person's body,
Oh, that sounds amazing.
and you talk, you ask like, how does this feel, what, would you like
Mhm,
harder or softer. My friend Betty
mhm,
Martin, who
mm.
wrote a book called The Wheel of Consent.
Okay.
So you can Google Wheel of Consent, and there's a lot of resources out there. But she recently came out with a book called, I think it's called The Art of Giving and Receiving. She
Mm.
has a thing called the bossy massage, where the person who's receiving the massage, your job is to be bossy and tell the massage person what you want, like to order them around and be bossy as a means
Yeah.
of practicing using your words and asking for what you want, and asking for adjustments.
Mm. That's amazing. When you have this practice that it's not that like, oh, if you want something, just tell me. And then you're looking for that opportunity. But when it's like all space for you and you're the one who constantly
Mm-hmm.
telling what you want, how you want, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the game. Your job is
Mm-hmm.
to tell me what you want, and my job is to
Yeah.
not do anything until you tell me where to put my hands.
Oh, oh, that's so good.
And so you can practice back and forth, and then you can practice checking in. Betty Martin has a thing called the 3 minute game, which is really great. It's about giving and receiving. So like in the sex ed world, there are all these amazing educators with all these different tools.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I encourage people to do is get curious and start looking for tools. Like my tools might not be the right tools for you.
Yeah.
Or like maybe you don't want your sex and relationship advice from a big goofy white guy. Like so look for the sex educators that you resonate with, and then look
Mm-hmm.
for the tools that resonate for you. Like you're not broken if you don't like the difficult conversation formula. Like it might not be the right tool for you, but use your curiosity and use the tools that you find that don't work to inspire you to continue
Mm-hmm.
to look for more. And then this way, this kind of application of staying curious, then you can you can try a vibrator, and maybe you find out like, I don't really like vibrators, but you're like, but I really like dildos. Or I don't like being spanked, but I like being like bitten on the back of my neck, really
Mm-hmm.
chompy, and oh, that feels great. Like, how do we get more curious?
Yeah.
And also, for those of you who are single, how do you find the people who are already curious so that you can be
Mm.
curious together rather than dating a complete newbie and now you're somehow the teacher or their therapist in your personal
Yeah.
life, which is a whole other conversation about like dating your
Yes.
species, like finding people who
Mhm.
are good fits for you. And so like, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but all these ways of looking at it, I think, kind of come to the same room, which is how can you become more of who you are, and
Yeah.
and and your self-awareness about that is a kind of confidence.
Hmm.
And again, like, people experience me as very confident, but what I'm saying to myself in my head is very fucked up. Like, I say things to myself about myself that I would never say to another human being.
Yeah.
And the difference between me, because I think a lot of people do this to themselves, the difference is I know that I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 50 now. Like, I'm in my 50s. Like, it has, and I've been teaching sex ed for like 20 years. Like, it hasn't stopped. I'm probably going to be saying shitty things to myself the rest of my life. So, can I love that part of me and bring him along for the ride and turn the volume down on that enough so that I can be present with the people that I'm in relationship with?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how we didn't even get to the question section and we're already getting questions. So you
Yeah.
attract questions.
Yeah. We can do however you want
Um,
to do this talk. We can do
um,
it however way you want.
awesome. Yeah. So that like as you spoke about your species, that
Hmm.
like could you elaborate how to discern your species?
Yeah. Okay. So, the quick answer is go to readaboutsex.com/species, and that'll send you to the workshop. So, so the way to start figuring out your species is what what really makes you happy in relationships, because really dating your species isn't about attraction.
Mm.
And because like hang on, hang on. Oh wait, I got a better way to do this. I was gonna get a big whiteboard, but I think I have a printout. Hang on. So if people go, we should have graphs.
So,
So
so we don't see it very well.
yeah, so
Okay, now it's better.
go to readaboutsex.com/Venn, VENN, and there, and you
Mm-hmm.
can download this printout, and this is called the Venn diagram of misery, and
Hmm.
this is how culture is screwing with us in our relationships. And I was talking about attraction, and the attraction piece is we were taught we have to have the right job, we have to be thin enough, we have to be young enough, we have to live in the right city, we have to wear the right clothes, so that people will find us worthy of a relationship.
Mm.
And depending on the culture that you grew up in and the time period, culture gives different messages, right? Like it used to be, you were, if you were curvy back in the Renaissance or whatever, like you were healthier and more childbearing or whatever, right? And then in the 90s, like you had to be like a strung out, heroin, thin model and all the things.
Mm.
What attraction does culturally is we are taught we have to be somebody that we're not so that we're worthy of love.
Oh, that's super sad.
And Chris Rock, the comedian, had a joke about like when you go on a first date, you're not really dating the person, you're dating their representative, the person they sent on the
Mm.
date to be there on their
Oof.
best behavior. And so finding your species starts with swapping out attraction for, and this is the Venn diagram of happiness. You want, you don't want attraction, you want self-expression.
Okay.
So what makes you worthy of a relationship is you being you.
Mm.
Be the person that makes you happiest,
Oh.
and see who's attracted, who's drawn to you for that.
There is fear that no one will be drawn to that.
Yes, yes. And that's the biggest challenge with taking on self-expression is if you get
Mm.
rejected, they're rejecting the real you.
Mm.
And the thing is that you might lose some friends. And you might have a bunch of people who are like I do not want to date you. And you can thank them for taking care of themselves because now you don't have to deal with their disappointment and you have more energy to be you
Hmm.
And then the people who are drawn to you are actually drawn to the real you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the beginning of dating your species, because when you can start being the you that makes you happiest, the
Hmm.
people that are drawn to you for those reasons are probably a better fit than somebody who's also trying to be something culture told them to be in order to be in a relationship with you when you're trying to be somebody fake too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have an immediate question.
Yeah.
How your attraction works? Like with this concept, what, like, based on what you're attracted to people, are you visual?
Oh, yeah, I'm all over the place. I just like people.
Hmm.
And there are some people that are visually like stunning to me, and then
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are not conventionally pretty that I think are fucking gorgeous as hell.
Okay.
And there are people that like I'm attracted to their brains. I'm attracted to them being self-expressed. But then we have to have a conversation about, are we a good fit for having a relationship, or should we just be friends? Or
Mm-hmm.
should I just be happy that you're on the planet and we really shouldn't even like know each other anymore? Like, I can be excited to have met you, but just because I'm excited doesn't mean we're supposed to date.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start kind of figuring out your self-expression, this starts to, like, once you get the hang of it, it's self-expression is everywhere. Like, so when you're thinking about dating, ask yourself how, like, what kinds of relationships, or how do you love? Like, what ways make you happiest? And again, like, we'll use music. How does music come through you in ways that makes you happiest? Is it jazz? Is it classical music? Is it country
Mm-hmm.
music or rock and roll or whatever? Like, so much of relationships culturally, we're kind of taught it's like classical music is the best music ever. But what if playing classical music doesn't make you happy?
Yeah.
Like, if it doesn't come through you that way. So if you're
Yeah.
monogamous and you want kids, then you should be looking for people who are also monogamous who also want kids. I am not monogamous. I'm also not straight, so I identify as a queer polyamorous slut. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to be monogamous and have children, I also don't want kids. Like, I'm not a good fit for you, no matter how awesome I think you are. I am
Mm-hmm.
only going to make you angry because I'm not going to turn into the person you want me to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the power of this, like, self-expression and
Hmm.
being your true self, because then this becomes possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when you're not a good fit, it's okay that it didn't work out.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
healthy relationship, is figuring out
That's
you
the
shouldn't
bottom
be
line.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm watching time.
Yep.
I want to switch gears again.
Please.
So we talked like about communication, and like this, like how you connect with people, and then let's move forward. That already connected,
Yep.
already together for some time. What makes a good blowjob?
What makes a good blowjob? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple things. Also, I just want to let I can see the questions, and
Okay.
if you go to cuddleparty.com, you can click on the Cuddle Party rules, and there's a whole explanation about more of how Cuddle Party works, because I didn't actually go through all the rules, but it's there, and you can go check that out. So what makes for a good blowjob? In my opinion,
Hmm.
as a penis owner, but also as somebody who likes giving blowjobs as much as I like receiving them.
Oh, that's perfect. The both
Well,
sides. That's the best.
it's helpful. Um, First, understanding all bodies are different, and this
Hmm.
applies regardless of gender. So, like, what worked on your last boyfriend might not work, might not be the favorite thing on the next person that you're filleting.
Yeah.
Also, we are all of our bodies change as we grow older, as things happen to us. So, like, something that you really liked in your 20s, maybe in your 50s you like something different. So the best place to start is learning how to listen to somebody's body. And like if you've ever kissed somebody who is a bad, have you ever kissed somebody who's a bad kisser?
Yes.
Okay. Did it feel like they were listening to you?
Mm-mm. They were self-conscious, I think,
Yeah.
and definitely not listening for me. Yes.
Yeah. So like bad kissers, my experience is like you're not picking, like you're not listening or hearing my body at all. Like
Mm.
it's just really clumsy, or you have your own agenda and you're not listening to my body. So developing the ability to listen to somebody's body is a
Mhm.
really great skill for sex. Period. And the way that I'll get another prop. Hang on. The way to teach that is if you've ever tried to make a wine glass sing. So for people who, it's not that I drink wine in my office. It's just that I teach this a lot. So I finally figured out I can just get a wine glass from downstairs. So when you're trying to make a wine glass sing, you're paying attention to pressure, speed, how fast you're going, and is it too wet or is it too dry?
Mm.
And those three things, like you're changing the pressure and the speed and paying attention to the friction, the dryness or the wetness, and you're making minute changes until you find that sweet spot that makes the wine glass ring. So I'm going to ask
Mhm.
everybody who's listening, pretend that you're holding a wine glass and pretend with me now that you're trying to make it sing, okay? And now stop for a second. And now, like, so just pay attention to me. And then I'm
Okay.
going to count to three. And then you're going to go back to your wine glass, your imaginary wine glass.
Mhm.
But I want you to notice where your attention changes. Because you're paying attention to me right now. But when you go to the wine glass, does anything change for you? Okay, so ready, set, wine glass. So where would you say, what shifted for you around how you're paying attention? Can you describe it?
That I'm not looking at myself. I'm focusing on you.
Okay.
And then as I see your hand is moving, mine is moving. It's like I tune into your finger and I move mine, imagining that they're one.
Got it. So let's, wherever you go, wherever your focus or attention or
Mm-hmm.
intention shifts, I call that my wine glass place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I go like I'm like I'm touching with my finger, but it feels like my ears are inside my finger. Like I'm listening from inside my finger for me.
Okay.
That shift in my focus,
Mm-hmm.
where I call my wine glass place, the next time you make out with somebody, or the next time you give a blowjob, or are giving cunnilingus, go to your wine glass place to try to feel or sense, are you creating more pleasure? Are you moving closer to making it sing? Or are you moving further away from it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Mm.
the easiest way to introduce the concept of listening to somebody's body.
Yeah.
So then when it comes to blowjobs, there's a couple of fun tricks. But then there's also like, for me as a penis owner, when I know you want to be going down on me and you're having a good time,
Mm-hmm.
it allows me to relax. Because I'm worried that you don't really want to give me a blowjob. And then I'm in my head. So you enjoying yourself will often, not all men, but for some men and penis owners, like it'll allow us to relax so we can enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it more. It's kind of like if
Yeah.
somebody's going down on you and you're worried that they don't want to do it,
Yeah,
does it
yeah,
make it
yeah,
more
yeah.
enjoyable?
Oh no.
Yeah. So one of the things you can do is the next time you're giving a blowjob, do things with your hands and with your mouth and the penis that make your hands and your mouth feel great, which might be very different than what you see in porn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you're pleasuring yourself with somebody else's genitalia, and then you're like, this is hot. I'm getting into it. Like, you're giving me all the messages that I can relax, and then like,
Mm-hmm.
and then me seeing you have a great time, like that can be a turn on for me.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it won't be. It'll be like, this is too much. I don't deserve this. Now they're kicking up their shame. But what you can tell them is like you can like connect with them and be like, listen, like I really want to do this, and it would mean a lot to me if you just practice receiving because you deserve it, or
Mm-hmm.
like if you want me to be bossy, like you're gonna lie there and you're gonna take it because you deserve it, and so I'm
Mm.
gonna reward you. Like you can figure out how to make it more fun. But those are
Mm-hmm.
the two things that I would start with. Start with like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you learn how to listen to somebody's body, and use the
Yeah.
wine glass idea to try to figure that out, and then
Mm-hmm.
pleasure yourself with other people's genitalia. And
Yeah,
when you
yeah, I
can
love it.
find those places, those can heighten the experience and help the other person receive.
Yeah, yeah. And then when orgasm happens, ejaculation happens, what would you like to be done with the sperm?
Oh yeah, so that's something I always ask when I'm playing with people. Is I'm like, hey, like
Mm-hmm.
if we get in the neighborhood of me coming, like what what makes you happiest? Like what's the most fun for you on that? Like, I mean, I will let you know we're getting close. I will warn you. And then I will also announce when we have gone past the point of no return because I think that's kind. But I want to check in before or as we start doing, the blowjob. I'm like, hey, I just want to check in, like what's the most exciting and fun for you? And that's like checking in those ways. Like so many people have never been asked that,
Mm-hmm.
and so many men and women like feel like they don't have a choice.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And what's your preference? What do you like?
It really depends. The thing I'm worse at, the worse. The thing I'm not good at is I have some lovers who they they just like ejaculation all over them, and it's still hard for me to do that. So, and my friends who really like it, they know that that's edgy for me, and that I know I want to get better at that. Like, because it's like I feel like I'm being a bad feminist if I come on your face. Like I'm like, oh, this is not good. But like I have friends who are like, no, that's what I want, and I'm like, I have feelings, and they're not forcing me to do it. But for me, it's like, wow, like I really have a lot of feelings about this, like, and they're a safe space for me to try seeing what that's
Mm.
about for me. I guess my favorite, it really kind of depends. Like I like orgasming while I'm fucking. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's really satisfying for me. What I really like, this is, and folks who are just meeting me, I'm so sorry if this is too much information. I really like threesomes. That's a thing that I'm very fond of. And what my favorite way to ejaculate is I love it when we can all sync up and try to have a simultaneous orgasm together. Like it's like because you're kind of like it's like
Three
it's
people.
yeah
Wow,
yeah
it's
yeah
hard for
yeah
two, and you want
yeah
three
yeah yeah
together.
oh yeah
Go
yeah yeah
read.
yeah. So when that happens, because sometimes the best way to make that to try that is to not really try. Like it just kind of all starts to come together all at once, and then the timing just kind of syncs. But that I would say that's to answer your question. That's my favorite way of coming.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Read, time with you just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have so many more questions and it's already approaching the hour. So I want to open up for people who are here and who has question. Um, you can ask it with your voice, you can turn on your video. You can write in chat if you haven't yet. So I will pause for a moment because I don't want to be greedy that I'm the only one who is asking questions.
Anyone? I'm just putting the links in the chat for folks for the things we already talked about.
Okay, yeah, and then I will put links for the recording as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I see your links. Okay, so since no one is asking, oh, okay, Deborah, how to keep the excitement going in long term
Yeah.
when you're in a long-term relationship?
So there's a really great book by Esther Perel called Mating in Captivity. I would say start just read that book or buy the audiobook if you're a listener, because not everybody's a reader, right? So learn your adult learning style that you love the most, and then try to absorb information in those ways. But Mating in Captivity talks about the dilemma of security and really knowing somebody deeply, and how that's nourishing but often not very hot. So like when you can really be intimate with somebody over long periods of time and you like know everything about that person, and that's just not like often what's going to get you off. So then there's the security, and then there's the things that keep you alive, and spontaneity and newness and strange, like the unknowns and mystery. So that book is probably the best book I've ever found to kind of help you realize what's happening in your relationships around long term. And the things that I would advocate for are like projects where you go explore things together. And the conventional wisdom would be like, both pick up a hobby like cooking or do something together. And that can be fine. But like sexually, like what do you really like that almost always works for the both of you and for yourself and for your partner? And then like, what are you curious about trying or exploring? Or like, what are you ashamed that you're turned on by? And how do you have those conversations and go explore those things? And exploring them doesn't mean you have to do them. So like I throw play parties, orgies, and we've been doing virtual ones or over the pandemic, and we have people
How
who
does that
come
work? How virtual works?
imagine this, but everybody's cameras are on, and
Okay.
and then you can pleasure yourself and ask to be watched. You can just watch, you can just eat popcorn and be like, wow, I didn't even know people did this.
Oh, oh my
but
God.
but that piece right there, like you're smiling because you're like, wow, that's interesting and that's exciting, or maybe like
Uh-huh.
scary, but I'm tingling.
Yeah.
Go have the conversations about what would be exciting to you. Whether you ever do them or not isn't actually the point. It's that you can talk about them. Because I've had people come to my threesome workshops who never want to have a threesome.
Uh-huh.
They just want to know that they could.
Oh,
And that's the
that's
turn on for
sexy.
them.
Yeah.
But so many people think that if I bring it up, or if I listen to my partner bring it up, then somehow I'm agreeing that it has to happen. And so like understanding that you can talk about and explore all kinds of fantasies, but they never have to happen. And like,
Yeah.
and this is where you can work this stuff into like how you dirty talk in bed, because like maybe the idea of being spanked is really turning you on, but you don't like being actually spanked. But then,
Hmm.
you and your partner are making love, and he or she's whispering in your ears like, oh, I'm just thinking about spanking you right now. I'm just putting
Oh.
you over my knee, and I'm gonna make your ass so red. And you know that you don't have to ever be spanked, but you're like, oh yeah, keep talking, like this is working for me.
Mm.
But based on what we already talked about, like that means you can talk to your partner about the things that you're excited about, which means you know what turns your brain on, at least, if not your body. So you've been exploring
Yeah.
those. You have your words to be able to tell your partner these vulnerable things. They have their words where they're like, fuck yeah, like we never have to do this, but I'm gonna like just tell you a story while we're making love. Like those are so many skills that so many people have never worked on because we're not supposed to be talking about this at all. And magically,
Mm.
when we become sexually active, we're supposed to know everything already.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Thank you. We have the next question. How
Mm-hmm.
to support if your partner has erectile dysfunction?
Yes. So this is not my specialty, and I am a
Mm.
53-year-old man, and my hard on
Mm-hmm.
does not always behave the way that I would like it
Mm-hmm.
to. So the the way to support your partner is hopefully like you supporting them doesn't put more pressure on them. Like hey, like let's go figure out if we can figure out this thing, and can you make it
Mm-hmm.
like a fun and an honoring experience for your partner, to like let's get creative and see what we can find. The other thing that's really really useful is start making sex not have to be about having an erection. So like when I teach my blowjob grad school class, I talk about like playing with flaccid cocks is awesome because if you're pleasuring your mouth and really getting into it, and you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me, you're modeling for me it's okay that I don't have a heart on, like I'm not a bad man, I'm not a failure as a man because I can't get it
Oh,
up. So like if we can learn to embrace pleasure without a hard on, then like I have a better chance of not being so spiraling out in my shame, and I can enjoy having sex with a flaccid cock, and that puts me in a better position to maybe find my erection during our sex. Also, make
mhm.
sex last longer than 2.5 minutes. That might
Yeah.
help, right? The other thing is going back to like bringing in sex toys, learning how to use your hands for hand fucking. Penetration can be so many other things other than your actual penis. Like
Yeah.
I'm a nerd, so like if I can't get it up, I'm like, hang on, like let me get my strap on. And then my partner's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like how big of a dick do you want tonight? Like we have a lot more sizes. Like
Oh
because
my God, I adore you.
well, this thing is like because if you want to get fucked, you're getting fucked, and if I can't get it up, that's not a problem. Professional tools create professional results.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my God, it blows my mind. Wow, thank you for saying it. Being a man and saying it, it's awesome.
Well, it's like here's the joke that I use in my class. Like when you see a carpenter using their hammer, you don't
Hmm.
shame the carpenter. You're not like, what, you can't use your fist to drive that nail in? Like, no. Like, duh. Of course you use a hammer. So now when you're thinking about sex, what do you want to experience? And then like, how do we make that happen? And then if I have shame come up from me, I have tools and hopefully a relationship
Yeah.
where I can be like, oh honey, like I'm feeling a lot of shame right now. And then you might be like,
Mm.
well, what would you like that would help you get over that shame? Like for me, with some of my lovers, like when I'm having a lot of shame about something, they know me, and because I told them this, I'm like, if I'm having a lot of shame, could you just sit on my face? Because that will totally change my mood. Because I love cunnilingus, so like I'm like, Reid, what's happening? I'm having a lot of shame. They're like, lie down, and I'm like, ooh. And you know what? 5 minutes later, I don't feel so ashamed. But I know that about myself. And I can
Hmm.
teach my lovers these tricks so they can help support
Yeah.
me, and I don't have to make it wrong that I'm having feelings.
Yeah, 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 that's amazing. I have the final question. If I don't
Okay,
ask it,
final
I won't
question.
be able to sleep.
Final question.
Yes. Um, so knowing that you're very comfortable about anything sexual, could you speak about anal sex? That is something that my mom told me that the butt is for pooping. It's not for putting anything in it. So there is this shame that there is something wrong with anal sex. At the
Hmm.
same time, it's so much fun. How to relax, how to get ease with it.
Yeah, I mean, what you're already doing, like you're recognizing where the stigma came from, and
Hmm.
that's real. Like what we get told by, you know, our adults that we grow up with, our parents, and our you know, other adults and early relationships, like that stuff sticks.
Yeah.
So destigmatizing it,
Hmm.
figuring out, like go take a workshop or read a book on anal sex, because there's some really great educators out there who can break things down so that you can have information on how to try and explore things. Because another thing that happens is sometimes people, they get courageous enough, or they're in a
Hmm.
relationship where they feel safe enough to try something they've always wanted to try, and maybe their partner isn't an expert at it, and so
Hmm.
and so it doesn't go well at first. But sometimes that's not because you're not going to like it. It's that like it's a learning curve. Like you're learning how to try something. And so like going slow with almost anything, but especially anal, can be really
Hmm.
really helpful. And like the mantra for a lot of educators is go slow, use lube. You want to go so slow that the person who owns the butthole is like, you're going too slow. Like you gotta like, come on. Like you're like, I want it. You want somebody. You want your body to be in that place. When I
Hmm.
teach men about this, this is something a lot of straight men never experience. Is like most men don't know what I call it hungry hole, but like when you
Hmm.
want penetration, like when your vagina or your ass is like,
Yeah.
ugh, put something in me. A lot
Um,
of straight guys, if they don't explore their ass, like they never know what that feels like. And so then trying penetration feels wrong because it's not time yet.
hmm.
Your body hasn't caught up and gotten like fully aroused. So another reason to go slow with anal, it isn't just like go slow with penetration. Take your time, like massage the person's ass, like kiss it, nibble on
Hmm.
it, like smack it around, like have fun with it and help the person get in their body,
Hmm.
and until they're so turned on that they want, like they're backing up into your hand trying to get you in. Like most people, they try to go too fast, too quickly, and
Hmm.
then it just feels wrong. And so
Yeah.
going slow, making sure the person's really turned on, and using
Hmm.
lubrication, like those are the first three things that if I only could answer in 3 words or 3 phrases, I would tell you those 3 things.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is amazing. Reid, if we want more of you, what are you offering? Could you
Yeah, so
mention?
people, you can always find out what's going on. Just go to my website and click on calendar because I'll always
Hmm.
update that. Right now, with the pandemic, I'm running a class, a group called Ready for Reentry, and it's all about like we're doing workshops and having conversations and supporting each other and like what do we need to get back to like dating again and maybe sleeping with people and just peopling in general. And that's a 6 week course that just is going to keep going. Like every 6 weeks, we're gonna start again, and you can show up at any time because everything's recorded and we're having replays. But like at the end of this 6 weeks, I'm gonna start week one again, and we're gonna have watch parties, and we do a lot of Q&A and stuff in the Facebook group. So if people are interested in that, you can go to readaboutsex.com reentry or forward slash
Mm-hmm.
reentry, and I'll put that in the thing. Um, and you that'll take you to the Eventbrite page with all the information. And people can always reach out to me, email me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll try to get back to people as quickly as I can. Some weeks I'm good at it, some weeks I'm horrible because I'm very busy with other projects. But like, just reach out to me. Like, I love hearing from people.
Mm-hmm.
And Ready for Reentry is what we're doing right now, and we've got 86 people in the group right now.
Woohoo!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got
Wow!
people
From
from all
all
over the
over the
world.
world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Wow!
it's
Wow! Wow!
mostly right
Wow!
now. It's mostly people in the U.S. I would say it's probably
Mm-hmm.
60 or 70% people in the U.S. because we're the ones getting vaccinated right now.
Yeah.
There's some people in Europe that are getting vaccinated soon. So it's a lot of people who are just trying to figure out, like, oh, wait a minute, like I can see people more safely, and I'm feeling really nervous, and I don't have a lot of confidence, and I know I'm starving, so I don't want to fall in love with the first person I meet because I don't trust myself if they're a good fit yet. So we're having all those conversations.
Wow! Wow! That's very interesting. And then, do you do one-on-one work?
Yep. Yeah. People can go to
Okay,
my website and click on
it's all on
coaching.
website.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Reid, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure, so much fun, so educational. Wow,
Thank
thank
you, thank
you.
you for doing these interviews, and also like for jumping around all the topics because I think they're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like my parting words for people: give yourself permission to like what you like and not like what you don't like. So just because we're talking about
Oh,
anal and getting excited about anal, like if you're like, I don't like anal,
mm-hmm.
don't like it. Like, you're
Yeah.
not broken. You like what you like and you don't like what you don't like. And the reason I say that is like so many of us think to be evolved, we have to like be into everything. And that's just culture
Mm,
giving us bad, bad advice.
yeah, yeah. Ah, taking it in, taking it in.
Hmm.
Thank you. I'm stopping the recording.